But first tonight, is Maine ready to change the state flag? We're currently scheduled to vote later this year whether to replace the current state flag. That could change. More on that in a few minutes. But the interest in replacing the current flag poses a question for two Maine businesses, one that 207's Don Kerrigan decided to take a look at. Hey, Don.
Hey, Samantha. The question's pretty basic. If we vote to change Maine's flag, what will the new one look like? The answer to that question, finding it, is more complicated than you might think. It's the flag we have all known all our lives. Blue with the state seal, with the sailor, the farmer, and the moose. But has the time come to change? Do you think Mainers are ready to make this change?
I think so.
Dave Martucci may be Maine's leading expert on flags. He's been studying them, he says, for 50 years. And he wants to change it to this. The 1901 flag, you say, I'm going to pick this up a little bit, you said was very close to this.
This is an exact copy
of
the known flags and of the lithograph that General Richards had published so that people could know what the design's supposed to look like.
The 1901 Maine flag with the pine tree and the North Star on a light tan or buff-colored background. It was Maine's very first true state flag.
When this flag in 1901 first came out, there was a comment made, whenever anybody sees this flag, they will know it represents the pine tree state. And I think there's a lot to be said for that comment.
The legislature voted last year to have Maine change back to the 1901 flag if voters agree. But exactly what should that be? The Maine Flag Company in Portland sparked interest in the old flag in 2017 when it began making a few with this stylized tree. The design is based on Maine's other official flag, the 1939 Merchant and Marine flag for ships. That flag is currently flown on Maine Maritime Academy vessels, but very few others.
We love that flag. We've loved it from the first time we set eyes on it.
Chris Corzin and Bethany Field had started making the Merchant and Marine flags for boaters and tried a few pine tree flags just for fun, and they took off.
I mean, personally, I think it's a really cool design. I love its like simplicity.
You know, our goal was to have somebody else produce those flags, and we wanted to, be part of marketing and selling them.
But they ended up making the flags themselves. Now, especially in southern Maine, their original Maine flag is all over the place, and maybe what got people thinking about changing the state flag.
This is historic by any standards in the United States. Certainly other states are looking at their flags now, but it's not every day that the citizens of a state get that opportunity.
The thing that's been most important to me is that it is a unifying symbol for the entire state.
But they aren't the only ones who have rediscovered the pine tree and the star. This one, with a different looking tree, is called the 1901 Maine flag.
Our factory had been making American flags for a number of years for towns and small businesses and locals, so I thought, why not add the Maine flag to it?
Their Maine Stitching Company in Skowhegan now produces these flags and other items that Julie Swain says are close to the original design.
We live up in the western mountains of Maine, and I see many, many trees that look like our tree. And I feel good about having this as a representation of what a Maine pine tree looks like.
Both companies tell us they sell thousands of flags every year. So if Maine does vote to change the flag, what will it look like? Dave Martucci says the original state law and the new one are not specific.
There's a dozen different flag designs out there. There's at least 4 or 5 Maine companies making different ones. There's companies from other places that are making them.
He showed examples of pine tree flags from multiple makers, each with its own look for the tree.
The Maine Flag Company and the Maine Stitching Company.
So if the flag changes, does the future of one of these businesses hang in the balance? Both companies say the vote might not change what they do.
I think we're going to continue to make this. Yeah, I mean, partially because a more stylistic tree wouldn't be possible in this process, right? It would need to be, a more realistic tree.
Would need to be either printed or embroidered or something.
Printed or embroidered, exactly. And that's just not how we make flags.
It doesn't change anything from our perspective. But with respect to this design, it's clear that people love it. I'm certain that they'll continue to buy products with that design on it. And whether it's the official flag or not, it's still a symbol and it's still a design that resonates with people around the state and beyond.
I take a neutral stance where I think I like things the way they are, to tell you the truth. And that way we can all exist as businesses, having our own representation of the Maine flag, and then have the Maine flag, the official one that we have now, still in place. Even those that want to keep our current flag do really like this image because to me it symbolizes the spirit of Maine.
And flag expert Dave Martucci, he wants to change the flag, but leave the rest up to us.
The state law that's being proposed is exactly the same as the 1901 law. And it says it's a buff flag with a pine tree in the center and a blue star in the upper hoist. That's it. And I'm all for one. I believe we should be flying more flags, not less.
Meaning, he says, if the referendum passes, let each Mainer choose their own tree, their own flag, just like they did way back in 1901. Now, the vote on changing the flag may not happen this fall. After all, a legislative committee just last week voted to delay that vote until 2026 and form a special citizens committee to advise and come up with a design for a new flag with the pine tree and star logo. The full legislature still has to vote on that. At the same time, the Secretary of State is preparing to issue a new state license plate to replace the chickadee, that one with the pine tree and star. And the design they have chosen is one with a fairly realistic looking tree. And Samantha, the whole story with the 1901 Maine state flag is fascinating. More details than we have time to put in one story, including the fact that when they voted originally to change it in 1901 to create a state flag, what they voted on was one that looks kind of like what we have today. But then the general of the militia said, oh, that's no good, changed it to the pine tree and star. What? Then in 1909, they voted to change it to the blue with the state seal that we have now.
And now we're talking about it once again, John.
We are again, and we'll be doing more on this because there's a lot more to it in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, and don't go anywhere because